Hello, and welcome to today's conversation, How Tech is Making Sure Shopping Will Never Be the Same. I'm Bennett Richardson, President of Protocol. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to our partners at the Alibaba Group for making today's event possible. At Protocol, we aim to arm you as decision makers in technology, business, and policy with actionable news and analysis to help you do your job. Stores doubling as warehouses, social networks turning into shopping malls, 60 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 15-minute delivery of everything and anything. The future of shopping isn't just happening on Amazon or at Walmart or even in, the mom and pop shop down the street. It's merging the online and offline worlds to create a ruthlessly efficient, totally social world of commerce where everything is for sale and available any way you want it. Today's panel gets into the details on how shopping works now, how the customer and seller experience are changing, and where there's still room to innovate. We're so glad you could tune in today. If you're not already subscribed, don't forget to sign up for our flagship daily newsletter, Protocol Source Code, as well as Protocol's family of newsletters at protocol.com/newsletter. To kick things off, I'm excited to introduce Michael Evans for an executive conversation on the future of retail. Michael is president of Alibaba Group, responsible for leading and executing Alibaba Group's international strategy for globalizing the company and expanding business outside of China. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Bennett. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. Alibaba is a pioneer in reimagining the retail experience. As we've seen lately, obviously, e-commerce is booming. I feel like booming is an understatement. Can you share some of the ways that Alibaba has innovated to meet the demands of shoppers while also supporting businesses?
Yeah, Bennett, let me just say at the outset, first of all, thank you for having me on the program. It's a real pleasure to be here and to help sponsor this event. I would say that, the China market, if you look at it, it is changing so quickly. And it's consumer demand, it's the macro environment, it's competition, it's, of course, also regulation and technology. And so as we think about retail, our principal goal here is to try and leverage digital tools to support merchants, to support consumers, to change the retail experience to something that's constantly engaging and interesting and fun. And that's challenging because we have a lot of competitors in China and outside of China that are also doing many of the same things. So when we think about digital tools, what do we mean? Well, for the consumer experience, it's everything from live streaming to interactive games to short form videos, virtual try-ons, AR, VR, 3D showrooms, all sorts of interesting things that actually didn't exist a couple of years ago and are now quite commonplace. And the next generation of those digital tools for consumers are already underway. In the supply chain, many brands that are on our platforms, particularly American brands, of course, they're very interested in in making sales, but what they're really interested in is the direct to consumer contact and developing that consumer base and coming up with new innovative products that are specific for the Chinese market. So we have something called the Tmall Innovation Center, and we spend a lot of time thinking about how to reduce the supply chain timeline and get their new products and cool products out to the consumers as quickly as possible. And lastly, just on fulfillment, we offer everything from 1 hour to 1 day to 3 days to as long as you want or as short as you want. And the technology that's required to process over 100 million deliveries a day just in China and to cater to the consumer preference is an ongoing challenge, but also an ongoing opportunity for us to try and serve people in different ways. And that's before we get to the metaverse, which someone else I'm sure will talk about, and the way that will change retail going forward. And of course, we're very focused on that for the future.
No, that's really exciting to hear. I wanted to focus in on China for a moment. As you mentioned, China's home to the largest e-commerce market in the world, and would love for you just to focus on that for us. How is Alibaba bridging that gap between American retailers and Chinese consumers and helping them tap into that market?
Well, look, our platform in China, Taobao and Tmall, has about 1 billion consumers on it, a little less than that. And those consumers love American products. Why? They're safe, they're attractively priced, they're very cool, and they're certainly very high quality. And so our strategy in the US is not to build a local platform to try and compete with local commerce companies. Our strategy is to take the brands, the retailers, the small businesses, even the farmers, and take their great products and stick them on the platform and make this direct to consumer connection for these brands. And this has proven to be a huge business because Chinese consumers love American products. So this is a business that is grown by, billions and billions of dollars a year. And in the latest year, 2021, which we just finished, we sold 61 billion US dollars of those products to Chinese consumers. So this is not B2B. This is not commodities. This is not Boeing aircraft. These are consumer products in fashion and apparel and toys, food, all the things that we all buy and consume. The Chinese consumer wants those as well. And there is a never-ending continuum of new products that are being produced and being offered. And so we think that the 61 billion we sold last year, it's not the beginning, but it is the trend that we want to be on, and we have much bigger ambitions in the future for what we can do. So this is a huge trade channel, and it's great for American businesses.
Yeah, it's great to hear that growth, especially these days. You can't talk about retail and commerce and the global supply chain and China without talking a little bit about environmental impact. And obviously, especially while retail demand from Chinese consumers is continuing to grow faster than ever, the environmental impact, largely of the entire retail and commerce sector, continues to be under scrutiny. Alibaba is really working to take a leadership role in that. I know you all announced a target 2030 date for going completely carbon neutral. Would love to hear, we're launching Protocol Climate in a few weeks, so it's a timely topic. Would love to hear what you're doing to achieve that goal and how it will impact your work to define the future of retail.
Yeah, Ben, it's a great question. And we both at our board meeting and during Investor Day, we talked a lot, not only about our ESG targets, but how it impacts different parts of the business, whether it's the commerce part, whether it's the cloud part, whether it's logistics part. And the answer is it impacts every part of the business. And we think we have a big contribution to make. And we don't see anything inconsistent between having a great ESG strategy and also having a great and growing commerce strategy for everything that entails. So what we've done with our board and with the senior management and the business leaders, because each of the business leaders are running the business where the ESG targets need to be met. So we've established what the targets need to be. These are core KPIs for our business leaders and for our chairman and CEO, Daniel Zhang, and we're working aggressively towards them. So for example, let me give you some tangible examples. In our commerce business, the packaging requirements to deliver all those packages every day and the tape that's used and how much can be reused or how much can we change the nature of our logistics to support the commerce business is a huge focus. And we have established targets and we've significantly reduced waste and also improved recycling, particularly of cardboard and other types of packaging. And this at scale in our business makes a big contribution. Other aspects of the logistics business in terms of electric cars versus diesel or diesel trucks or gasoline powered engines can make a huge difference in terms of our delivery and logistics of all of these packages, both domestically and also internationally. And then there is our cloud business, which of course has huge numbers of servers that use tremendous amounts of power. And reducing power consumption, which is largely coal-fired burning power plants in China, means that we have to have more efficient servers, and we need to think about how can we do what we need to do in a growing business which has huge data and compute demand, but use significantly less power. So this is a big project. We have a lot of resources internally that are dedicated to it, and we're committed to achieving the targets for 2030, but also doing things above and beyond that because we think it's consistent with where China has to go and where our business within China will go.
Well, it's great to hear and love hearing you all focused on those efficiencies really across the entire supply chain, not just on packaging, which often comes under scrutiny, but also all the way through with delivery and fulfillment and everywhere else. Thank you, Michael, for your insights and for kicking us off today. And thanks again to the Alibaba Group for your partnership.
Thanks, Bennett, and good luck. I'm sure it'll be a great session. Many thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I'm excited to bring up Protocol Editorial Director David Pierce to introduce our panel and get the conversation started. David, over to you. We'll get David up in just a moment.
Okay, we are back. Hi, everybody. My name is David Pierce. Like Bennett said, I'm Protocol's editorial director. Sorry, that was slightly complicated there for a minute. We are still getting everybody set up, but we have an extremely fun conversation that we're about to have. It turns out what shopping looks like is like the most interesting thing in tech right now. And I think we're going to get into a lot of aspects of it, but maybe the easiest place to start, rather, I guess, than have me say lots of words about all of you is to have you just introduce yourselves. That's much easier. So let's just go in the order I can see you on my screen. Allison, you go first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Barr Allen, and I am the co-founder and COO at Fast, which is a one-click checkout company.
Sweet. Faisal, are you actually here, or is this just pretend? Yes. Awesome. Well, you look great. We'll just let everybody believe that's what's going on. Jeremy, with the color-coded books.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeremy King. I'm the head of engineering at Pinterest. I've been there about 3 years, and I spent a few years at both Walmart and eBay as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So part of the reason I'm excited to have the three of you on is you're all working in like these really interesting, super tech forward companies right now, but also have lots of experience in this whole industry and like related questions about logistics and commerce and shopping and all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot going on. But I think the place I want to start is just to kind of level set and talk about the state of things a bit. So like we've had this pandemic. I don't know if you guys have heard. It forced all this huge change, digital transformation, all kinds of offline commerce is now moving online. Everybody's had to figure out the internet. And I guess my question is, where are we at this moment? Like, is that transition done? Are we in sort of an e-commerce first world, or is that just kind of a thing that people in tech like to say is true, but the rest of the world has not yet caught up? Allison, maybe let's start with you. Where do you feel like we are at this moment in time?
Yeah, great question. And thanks again for having me on this panel. It's great to be here. I think we're in a transition period. So for a couple of years, you had this period where every company was investing in e-commerce, and it was a forcing function. They had to. And before, you had some laggards who maybe weren't as interested in investing in e-commerce technology, and then suddenly they had to survive as businesses. So you see, I think a big example is online ordering at restaurants. They're all set up with QR codes now, and you order from tables. I'm sure we can talk about QR code technology. and sort of everyone, like for a while, you could only buy things really online and get them delivered. I think now we're in sort of a transition period back where people are craving these in-person experiences as well. So what we're seeing is this like convergence of online and offline and different experiences. I think one trend we're seeing is an increase in buy online, pick up in store. So people will buy online and then they want to go pick up in store. So it's sort of this omni-channel thing. And another thing that we do at Fast is omni-channel experiences in arenas or sports venues where you can scan codes and purchase things and then it gets delivered to your house. So it's sort of like buying in person and then getting delivered to your house. So I think we're seeing this convergence, and I think it's sort of the beginning of these experiences.
Okay. Jeremy, you were nodding. Is that your take too, in that we're in this sort of moment of convergence of all these different things?
Yeah, I think that's right. Even you heard Michael talk about in China, it's only 25% of the total retail market. So in the US, it's about 20%. And so that's 80% of retail still going on physically. And I do think that Allison's right, that the convergence between the physical and digital is coming together. And I like to think about it, people come to Pinterest to shop because it's almost like traditional shopping. And we saw a huge boom over the pandemic was there's lots of places to go when you know exactly what you want. But if you don't know what you want, a store, an in-store experience is actually a really good place. The second best place is Pinterest, of course, because you can discover, 97% of our searches on Pinterest are what we call unbranded. People are searching for like dining room table or casual furniture or, bunk beds and things like that. And it's a great place to introduce new brands and experiences to people. And that's why things like AR and these types of things will continue to help people get the physical experience while you're digitally enabled.
Okay. I like that. And Faisal, while you're still here, any thoughts before?
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you great.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, David, you were saying.
I'm curious, like we were just talking about kind of the state of things, and both Allison and Jeremy were saying we're at this interesting moment of all these different things converging where we have online and offline and people wanting real experiences, but also everything is getting like the upside of this digital transformation at the same time. Is that what you're seeing? Where are we in the kind of digital transformation of shopping right now?
Yeah, we're still, if you talk about B2C, you're probably 15 years ahead of the other folks, B2B, where they're still kind of laggards in the industry because sales forces still make up most of the demand there. I still feel like while the transformation has accelerated with the pandemic, there's still a bunch of laggards out there that are not quite the experience that you need. You still feel on the operator side, merchants is still very analog. You're choosing and selecting inventory of what you're going to sell. On the consumer side, it's not very native to where it needs to be. You would think it'd be far ahead. In the earlier session with the Alibaba, China just seems so far ahead when it comes to commerce in general, but we've made a lot of strides. So it's good to see that you're seeing a lot more omni-channel, which I've heard for the past decade. But I would say there's more to do.
So what's your sense of the holdup there? This is part of what I'm curious about, is it seems like if I'm running a business really of any size, I'm sort of spoiled for choice now. There's so many tools, there's so many platforms, there's so many ways to get in front of people. Buyer behavior is changing so fast. Is it just that it like takes time and costs money to do this stuff and people are reluctant to do that? Like, what is the holdup here for those laggards who are left?
Yeah, it's from what I can tell, it's more of a structural issue than an actual consumer issue, where if you look at the organizations, the internal org structures don't enable the speed that is needed to be able to do what needs to get done, i.e. product management or engineering, not being on the same page. And sometimes just those larger organizations just move very slowly. And if you notice that you see that across a lot of large organizations that they want to do the right thing for the consumer, but you don't always see that manifest itself in front of the consumer all the time. And, having spent time at Amazon for many years, I still feel the tools that we had built in 2010, we don't see in most retailers being able to use today, where pricing was completely automated, merchandising was completely automated, content was fully automated, supply chain, forecasting, everything. Whereas at Staples, we had 300 merchants for the same size of business online that at Amazon, we had 3 merchants. So this nature of managing everything manually through the most important tool, Microsoft Excel, is not going to scale. and you need to build operator tools, which is what at Fabric we're doing today, to sort of provide Amazon level fidelity of tools to the operators, buyers, planners, versus not. And I think that does hold back. So I think it's structural issues. Secondly, it's the toolkit that you give to the folks who run the business. If you don't automate those tasks, you're going to slow down the process.
Yeah, I talk about this in the context of like the boring part of shopping and e-commerce. You know, all this tail of products that we want to see online. Putting something online is not as straightforward as it sounds. You have to have compliance documents. You have to have great pictures. You have to have the ability to search for it and all the attributes. So products, companies like Wayfair, for example, are giving tools to their suppliers that allow them to use like regular cameras, iPhones and Android phones, to take pictures of it while they're in the manufacturing process, so that it can upload and they can do attribute extraction and picture and color extraction. And these kind of tools are helping get us to the long tail of the products that we all want to see online.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And Allison, you're obviously trying to sort of build and integrate these tools in as many places as possible. And I know a big part of what Fast is up to is trying to make this as like stupidly simple as possible, both to use and to integrate. What are you seeing on that front? Like, what are the sticking points that the folks who are kind of like not ready to live in the Fast world yet?
Yeah, great question. I think what Faisal mentioned this as well, but we're sort of at this point where we're moving towards API-driven commerce, where you're seeing the decoupling of different platforms and tools, and you may have different order management systems and all these different types of apps. So you're seeing, different tools that can operate together as opposed to just being dependent on one platform and whatever they set up. So we're seeing a lot more options and a lot more functionality. What we're doing at Fast is sort of decoupling checkout and buying from what we talked about, like catalog pages online, where right now, a lot of times you look at a store, it's basically, you see a store in person and then you see the same categories, and it's not personalized. It's not super flexible. You can't really create new experiences around that. And it's like very static. So what we can do at Fast is we have something called Headless Checkout, where you can actually put buy buttons anywhere online. So if you see reviews, for example, you can purchase the item directly from the page, as opposed to just linking someone back to an e-commerce site and having them go through the entire flow. So we can really bring the full experience together. And the power of that is it can unlock all sorts of different shopping experiences in the future, where you may be able to have creators who can create a custom set of products that they recommend that are maybe from different stores or something like that. But it's one example, but I think thinking through how we can create new shopping experiences online. And I think another reason that we've been held back a little bit in the US is payments is often really decoupled from social and also commerce, where now you see a lot of the social platforms investing heavily in this space, because in China from the beginning, it was Alipay and WeChat Pay and all these things where social and payments and commerce sort of all combined into one. So the US is playing catch up in some regard in that area.
It's actually a really good point. I remember going to China a few years ago, and I had my credit card and my Apple Pay and everything else, but they didn't accept any of that. It was either WeChat Pay or good luck, you're not paying. So it's a very fair point, far ahead of and very fractured in our ways of managing, and Headless does help.
Yeah,
I noticed you
space. Oh, because
sorry, no, Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, I became fascinated in this space when I worked at Uber, because often payments was a blocker for growth in different regions. And we saw economies like Indonesia, for example, they were mostly cash economies. So these countries really went digital first. And that's where you saw on this explosion of wallets, where the US had this like credit card version, which was sort of an interim between wallets and cash. And it was like good enough. But really, you saw these countries like China and Indonesia and others really go from cash to wallet, which just created these super apps all over the place.
Well, and that gets to one of the bigger trends that is really interesting to me right now, because there's this, I mean, there's that famous quote, right, that we're always either unbundling or bundling, those are just the two phases that we're in. And I was trying to figure out which of those is happening right now. And it actually seems like it's both. And there's like a weird philosophical competition between the two, where on the one hand, you have, the Amazons and the Shopifys of the world who are saying, give us everything. We will handle everything from all the way down to like how things ship and where they're stored. And then on the flip side, you have folks like the sort of headless side of things that are saying like, no, decouple all these things, like use best in class everything. We'll figure out ways to put them together for you. Am I thinking about that the right way? Like, is there a sort of big platform versus roll your own best of breed thing happening here?
And Jeremy will talk about a Walmart experience as well, where they built a ton of technology in-house, similar to Amazon. With the rest of the world is not Amazon or Walmart. And this is the part we forget. But the rest of the world is sitting on monolithic platforms that are single points of failure. You've got, the IBMs and the Oracles and the ATGs, et cetera, where everything is dependent on this single platform. And there's just no capability to ingest a great SaaS product from somewhere else unless you have the APIs to do so. So the API first world has definitely opened this up. And for Fabric specifically, when we sell to our customers, we don't really care what platform they sit on. As long as they can access our products through our APIs, we can give them an order API or an item API or a pricing API. And they can take our Copilot apps, which allow the operators to use those or not. And I think that flexibility and choice is more the future versus you must have all of this from one provider. That just doesn't enable the kind of commerce that we need. And Walmarts and Amazons and Alibabas can do that because they've got the thousands of engineers to be able to provide that capability. But if you look at the rest of retail, the ability to deliver brand new product features, et cetera, under those terms, not possible today.
I think, David, also the thing is not all retailers actually want to participate in this marketplace world, right? Where there's a one interface. And so you see this real dichotomy between companies who want to use the marketplaces for really customer acquisition, and then frankly, don't want to use them again, and you see this happening, as Allison talked about, in the creator ecosystem. Well, they'll use creators to introduce their products, but they don't necessarily want to sell them just on every single marketplace. They want their own. They want the customer in their database. They want a direct relationship with them. And you see like some of the social networks like completely taking over the order process. My shipping notification comes inside the cell. And this, if you talk to the retailers, that's not really what they want. So I agree that there's some pressure for customer acquisition, but in the long term, the ownership of the customer is really, your competitive advantage.
Right. And I would think for a platform like you at Pinterest, you have to think pretty hard about how to sort of let people have it both ways, right? Because there is something to the simplicity of I'm
100%.
looking at this anyway, and I can just click a button and buy it. Like retailers want that too.
That's the real balance. It's actually a consumer problem too, because you take a platform like Pinterest where you don't want 20 different integrations with every different website with a different user experience. But you take a great partner like ours, like Etsy, who has millions of products, and most of their products have hundreds of different types of different colors and styles, and some of the stuff is handmade. Like, how do you build that experience on Pinterest? You want to deliver that beautifully to the Etsy so that they can use their world-class checkout experience to deliver that to the consumer. So this is really the dichotomy: simple, easy to use, but also a place where the retailers can feel good about their consumer experience.
This is where Google has continued to kind of try to figure this out, where still 50% of searches go to Google, but it's just 14 clicks later, still trying to figure out what to do because Google just doesn't understand e-commerce.
Right.
And that's been a big challenge for them to really decide, do we run the ad business or do we actually help consumers? And they're sort of stuck with the ad business at this point, just because that's the big moneymaker.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Allison, what do you think about that balance? I know when we talked before Fast even launched, you were thinking about sort of the right balance between like, how do we be kind of a tools company to let companies have their own stuff, but also how do we build sort of useful consumer stuff where you can track all your orders from lots of different places and think about, rewards and loyalty programs and that kind of stuff. Like, how do you think about that balance?
Yeah, great question. I think Fast is really a growth product in that we're helping consumers and businesses better connect to each other in the simplest way possible. So if you're on a site and you really want to purchase something, how can we reduce like all friction to you actually purchasing that item on the site? So with that, when you fill out when you check out with Fast, you're actually it's also an identity product in that you're creating an account with the seller, but you're also creating an account Fast. So they still get a lot of the same information that they would if you created a username and password. So it's also the simplest way to log in and create an account. So for sellers, that's really great. And the more steps that you reduce, and what we can also see is how can we optimize, because this is like the one area of the flow that we're continuing to optimize. And we've talked to really big enterprise sellers before, and they have thousands and thousands of engineers. And similar to what you said before, building this stuff in-house you can do it, but it doesn't really make sense for every single company to reinvent how the zip code field is done. And if you continue to optimize it, there will be like better ways to do it that can benefit all businesses and all consumers. So that's where it's we can really specialize in certain areas of the flow, and like checkout is obviously the one that we're focused on. But for us, checkout is not just payments. It's really it's about identity. It's about e-commerce. It's about catalog integration. It's about showing the pricing and shipping information. So it's really a lot of areas of e-commerce combining together.
Yeah, if we could just fix the thing where you type your address and then it gives you the picker where it always guesses that you're like thousands of miles away from where you actually are when you try to pick. If we could just solve that, I feel like we've really fixed commerce. That's my
well, in fact, you can fill it out once, and then our buttons will be everywhere, and you don't have to worry about it. But I mean, it's just crazy to me still how often this problem comes up. Like, I just had my credit card compromised again, and suddenly my physical credit card doesn't work, and they have to mail me a new one, and who knows how many of my automatic charges are going to get declined, and I don't know which ones have auto updaters. So it's like in my perfect world, it's like I updated on Fast, and that everyone can use the new card, and I don't have to worry about it. So it's sort of a vision that we're working towards, but I think it's crazy how common these problems still are today.
Totally. So just to shift gears a little bit, I want to just run through some of the like interesting new kinds of shopping experiences and just see what you guys think, because there's a million buzzwords out there. Everybody's talking about how all this stuff has changed. They all have stupid acronyms. So I just want to feel you guys out on a few of these. And Jeremy, I want to start with you because you guys have been working on AR stuff. You just launched this AR try-on for home decor stuff. And to me, the funniest thing about augmented reality forever has been that everybody's demo is see how the couch looks in your living room. Like everyone for years, it's like, what's augmented reality? You can see the couch in your living room. Like, cool. Okay, fine. So is there something real here about how AR in particular changes shopping? Like, what is your sense of where that actually goes?
Yeah, I think it really does. What we saw when we did AR try-on for beauty, we were one of the first ones to go build this, not only skin tone picker, and the ability to try makeup on. When people interact with the AR, they're 5 times more likely to buy. And that's those are real numbers, like 5x increase in that. And so we're seeing that beauty and fashion. Obviously, we're hoping to see that in home. We partner with all the great companies in this space. Like I said before, Crate and Barrel and IKEA and Wayfair and Walmart and Target, they all have AR capabilities on their apps. But when you're trying to discover, and this goes to the point of like, what is AR really good for? And it's for looking at long tail items that you would never have tried. You might not go to this particular store. You might not choose this particular makeup or this particular dress type. But you can really explore like long tail products. You can look at totally different styles than you ever would at a very low cost to the consumer. And what we're really seeing is consumers not only love it, but especially brand new brands love it because it's a great place to get unique products in front of a whole bunch of consumers. So yeah, we're hoping to see this on Pinterest in the home category, just like we have seen in the beauty category. It's going wonderfully, and like I said, the consumers love using it.
Fair enough. Allison, Faisal, any thoughts on AR? Have either of you bought a couch in your living room and you can see what it looks like?
I've done sneakers on Goat, which was actually
there you go.
Really good experience. They've done a really good job on their app. So yeah, I'm a consumer of it, and our customers want it too. It just depends on the particular use case of the customer. It's not for everyone, of course, but I can totally see We have Restoration Hardware as a customer of ours, and Crate and Barrel, same thing. They would want that. And Wayfair did it a long time ago, as it was mentioned earlier. So yeah,
Right.
see both use cases.
Okay. Allison, you mentioned QR codes, which is another thing I want to talk about because I got in a long argument with somebody the other day about whether the QR code menus at restaurants is like the future come to life or a total nightmare that we all can't wait to get away from. I have been proclaiming the value of QR codes since, I'll just say, way before it was cool. And now they seem to be here. And I'm curious, like, what's your sense? Are QR codes part of shopping forever now?
I think they are. I think the US has some interesting versions of it where I think what you're referencing is the restaurant version where some experiences are good and I think others are a little bit, they have opportunities for improvement. I think Toby from Shopify tweeted about this at one point where it's like, it doesn't really make sense to go like scan a QR code and then look at like a physical menu in really small print that you like can't really order from. It's not really the ideal experience. So I think we still have a little bit of ways to go to simplify the process from when you scan that QR code in restaurants to making sure the customer experience is just as good after you scan it and see it on your phone, because in a lot of cases right now, it would just be easier for you to point to things on a menu as opposed to trying to like read the really small print. So I think it shows like people are investing in this space. I think it will continue to get better. And you sort of see like the Toast and the Squares and others really expanding their point of sale solution. So I think it will get better. But again, I think it will be a hybrid. It's not going to be like fully QR code restaurants where you don't interact with the person, because again, it's like we've been isolated for almost 2 years. People are craving these like in-person experiences. You sit at home in front of a computer all day. They don't want to go to a restaurant and not see a single person and just scan a code. They want to like have a conversation with someone. So it's like, how can we sort of use, as Faisal mentioned too, how can we use technology to make it easier for the back office and for the people working at the restaurant and making their workflows easier to do their jobs and provide incredible service to people in the restaurant or whatever other sort of business without just doing it for technology's sake.
I also think it opens up, we talk about this all the time, and maybe you'll talk about showrooming and what the future of physical retail is. But as you look at boxes getting smaller, but wanting to provide more colors, sizes, and that sort of thing, the QR code experience is so easy. If you like, I just want to try this shirt on and see if it fits, but I really want the blue one and not the purple one, or that sort of thing. And, you see Bonobos and lots of companies have been doing this for years. And funny, Wayfair is actually going the opposite way. They're going from digital to actual physical stores that will include experiences like allow you to customize and QR code products. And you see this across retail. So I do think it opens up not only a great experience for things like restaurants, but for product companies as well.
Okay, so where do you stand on QR codes?
Yeah, I like that line, Allison, about doing technology for the sake of doing it. I do believe that in some cases QR codes are quite good utility. In others, it's just sort of additional friction in the process. So I think we haven't been able to find that middle ground of where it could be super valuable. Like for me, the only time I pop open the QR is when I'm at JFK trying to buy Shake Shack, and they have a QR code there and everyone else is in the line. I'm like, why is everybody in the line? I can just do this right now. And sometimes these organizations are not collaborating enough where on the app, you actually can't order at the airport. It's this bizarre disconnect. So you have to go to the QR code. So the implementation of these things is done in a way where a lot of folks are not talking to each other. But I can see the benefits of QR and also the lack of desire to use it sometimes as well.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And that also comes back to, Jeremy, what you were saying about the role of the physical store. And this is one of the things that is most interesting to me about this space right now, because it seems like if I'm a consumer, what I want and sort of increasingly expect is to be able to do anything from anywhere, any way I want, and then just have it sort of magically appear in front of me. Like I should be able to go to a store and get it. I should be able to get it delivered in 15 minutes. I should be able to buy whatever I want in the store, but have it shipped to me online because it's custom and it's exactly what I want. And it seems like if I'm a retailer of any size, these expectations are getting I mean, like borderline out of control. How am I supposed to keep up without forking my money over to 100 middlemen who just want to ship it from place to place to get it somewhere? So I am sort of curious from all of your perspectives how you're thinking about this, like the job of in this omni-channel curbside pickup, buy online, pick up in store world. Like what is a reasonable expectation for something like a physical store to do and be for people going forward?
You would think that so we have a product called OMS, which is Order Management System, which allows this concept of distributed order management, where you can allow a dark store, a local store, a kiosk, fulfillment inventory coming from a straight fulfillment center. The retailer should have the capacity to do all of it, because the consumer shouldn't have to bear the burden of deciding, what do I get to choose, what am I allowed to do? And a lot of legacy platforms don't have that flexibility to allow retailers to be able to do distributed order management. And that's where, when Fabric was built, we knew that the number of use cases out there are infinite. How do you solve the ones that are the thorniest in a most seamless way? So from a consumer's perspective, shopping is still fairly analog. It's not quite as native as you expect. I mean, Instagram, you would think that initially they had this native shopping experience where you could look at stuff and literally buy, but the payments was a little bit difficult and still is. Whereas they moved to this concept of shop on their app. Nobody goes to Instagram to go click a button called shop. That's crazy. That's actually very badly instrumented shopping experience. And what consumers actually loved was just being able to find stuff organically. But the transaction part was very hard. So I would say we haven't met the needs yet, but it would be a great goal to get to a point where both the operator, the backend, can support the use cases the consumer is looking for.
Yeah, talk about that
Sorry,
type
Jeremy,
of
go ahead.
shopping. Sorry, that type of shopping on the social is sort of like impulse buying, right? I mean, you're not going there for high consideration items, even items you talk about like shoes on Goat and those sorts of things. You don't go to the social platforms to buy a couch or a car or anything of any substance. You might buy funny coffee mugs or T-shirts or something. And that's where I think you're right. Both the ability to discover items in a world where you're not sure exactly what yet, but having the integration points that you talked about. I do think it brings up an interesting point, David, about the cost of all this. I had a conversation with my daughter. She ordered like $40 worth of sushi that cost me $70 to get to my house. And I was telling that story, and somebody said it costs like $15 to get a bag of McDonald's French fries to your house, right? And so at some point, you have to understand that the consumer not only wants choice, but that economic model is not going to work either, right? So, and sure, robotics and some of the things that are coming will help lower that cost, but still. Consumer choice is one thing, the economics need to make sense as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Allison, how much time do you spend thinking about how something like Fast or any of this stuff might work in a physical space? It seems like there are ways I could see how those two things could make sense together.
Yeah, I think it goes back to an earlier point I mentioned where I think there's been, through COVID, a growth in two key areas. One is buy online, pick up in store. So sort of to Jeremy's point, people want that cheaper and faster option where they can just drive 5 or 10 minutes and pick something up easily. I think Walmart and others have seen a big growth in this area. And then the other is buy in store and get shipped to your house, which I think, at least for right now, this is an interesting one that we're working on at Fast, where we work with different arenas and stadiums, and there might be like we have a partnership with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and there can be an item of the game that you can scan the QR code and then it gets shipped to your house. So you don't have to you get that wonderful experience of shopping, but you don't have to stand in this crazy line during the 10-minute intermission at the sports game to get your special jersey. And you can still only get it if you're in that physical place. So it's all this also like special shared experience. So that's one example, but something I joke about. We used to live in this San Francisco proper, and we didn't have a car, and we would go to Costco, and then to get all the stuff back, you have to like get an Uber and then get all the stuff in the car, and it's like awful. So I would joke, it's like I just want to be able to go through Costco and like scan things, and then it gets delivered to my house. So I think that's what we were referencing too. Is it's like, again, it's this people want to go both ways. They want to touch it and then order it and get it easily without standing in crazy checkout lines and having to carry everything home. And then they also sometimes want to buy online and easily be able to get it without waiting a really long time to get it shipped.
Yeah. And that also addresses like the idea of the fact that people like shopping, which is, I think, a thing that gets forgotten about a lot in conversations like these, where there's one thing where it's like, I need, toilet paper. Like, I'm not interested in browsing. I just would like to have it as soon as I possibly can. And that's one side of things. But people like to go to the mall. People like to shop. I like to walk around Costco. I would not want to automate my Costco experience. I think it's fun. And in that sense, like, is that a part of the physical retail future, do you think? Like, can we represent that digitally in the same kind of exciting sort of browsing way? Or like, is showrooming really the future of that, where these physical stores become less where you buy and more where you wander?
Yeah, Pinterest, we call this taste-driven shopping, because the challenge you're having with sort of the classic commerce marketplaces is you're seeing millions of items on sort of a single item on a white screen background. And, at some point you just get so shop fatigue, you don't want to watch this, right? So you want lifestyle images with products in real world experiences, with the ability to say, I like that lamp, I like that dress, I like that purse, I like those shoes, and be able to click on it and identify that. And then get served up those personalized images in a way that you feel comfortable with, that allows you to easily shop. And I think that's where, the computer vision technology that we're working on at Pinterest, the recommendation engines, the retailers have been working on this for a long time, but there's only so much you can do if you have, just white background product images, right? You need to build out this experience. And we're seeing increases of people using our computer search, our computer vision search, where you take the camera and you point it at an item and say, I want to search, where did this come from? That increased 20% over the pandemic, almost 20%. And so people are going out and saying, I like that item. I don't know what it is. You might be at a store or at a hotel or just at your friend's house. Like, where did you get that? And I want something like that. And so you're seeing people use that technology to personalize their experience versus trying to, how do I know what a shabby chic is, piece of furniture is? People use barnyard style, kitchens and things like that. How do I even know how to describe that stuff? So this I think is really the future of shopping.
Okay, that's super interesting. And that's actually a perfect segue into the last thing I want to talk about, which is the metaverse. But before we do that, real quick, I just want to know how you guys think about this sort of relentless downward trajectory of delivery of everything. Because we're in this space right now where there's a million ways to get anything delivered. It gets increasingly faster. It's losing all these companies a fortune and costing, like you're saying, Jeremy, users more and more over time. Like, is this sustainable, this thing that we're in, where anything I want, I should be able to have in 15 or 30 minutes? Or is this just kind of a blip on the radar before we figure out how this is actually supposed to work?
Yeah, the way I say that is everybody wants dollar bills for 50 cents. I think it works until you can keep handing out the dollar bills. Unfortunately, if you go back in history with Urban Fetch and Cosmo, these companies do well in countries where the hourly rate for labor is nowhere near what you have on the Western Hemisphere. And while 15 minutes sounds really interesting, and you can see what's happening with Joker today and other companies, it's just the math doesn't work. To get this order to you, even if you look at what Prime Now is doing, you need to bake in a $10 to $12 cost to serve out the gate. That means your basket has to be at least covering that much. These basket sizes are $25 or maybe 30 or 40. So no, they will work until there's cash. And ultimately, there's going to be a consolidation. And you can see that it's going to be all about knowing which inventory is needed. And at Amazon, there's a concept called FDFC, the forward deployed fulfillment centers, that knew sort of what you needed. And so you could serve that inventory. But outside of that, if you're just a DoorDash, I don't see how the math will work out long term, and they'll have to figure out a way out of it, like GSX did.
Your point is exactly right. It's all about density, right? If in the high density cities, if you go to Korea or China, where you're dealing with high rises with hundreds of floors, you can build a small distribution center right there and deliver economically to those places. But if you're taking a single item and putting it in a single truck and making a single trip, it's not going to work, right? You need density, and density of both the items you're looking for and the number of trips, the number of deliveries you can make per trip, right? Is really the cost benefit on this.
and typically that's over 2 an hour. So I don't see somebody getting from Upper West Side down to downtown in that time period. So it's a great thing for the consumer. They're getting free goods.
Yep.
That's awesome, but it just mathematically doesn't work here. It does work in other countries, like Jeremy said, and it should continue.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, we only have a few minutes left, so let's talk about kind of the big future of all of this. And I would preface this by saying nobody knows what the metaverse is. It might not even be a real thing. It definitely doesn't exist yet. But I do think this idea that we live in sort of increasingly immersive, increasingly digital spaces is true and happening and interesting, and exacerbates a lot of these problems that we're talking about. Even things like if I'm wearing a VR headset, you know, it's like a giant pain in the ass is inputting my credit card number. Like even simple things like that become more important to do efficiently and effectively. So Allison, maybe you go first. As you guys are thinking about what it looks like to simplify a lot of this stuff, like, are you already thinking about VR and AR and the possibilities of like how people should pay for stuff in Roblox in 10 years? Is that even worth thinking about right now?
Great question. I think the nice thing about fast and payments and checkout is it's sort of everywhere and impacts every business. It doesn't really matter if you're selling office chairs or you're selling makeup online. You sort of still go through similar checkout flows. So a lot of the same APIs and technology can be applied, whether you're on Roblox or somewhere else, through using our APIs and catalogs and other software. I think I've never used Roblox. I've sort of read about it, but I think what it sort of alludes to what we talked about earlier with this omni-channel thing, where it's a third world where people sort of want this hybrid of experience versus just like searching a catalog online or just like item-based inventory. So it's like, it's sort of in between, but you, I think, run into the same problems where it's like, if you want to order this thing in the metaverse or you see someone wearing it and it looks more real, it still needs to be stored somewhere and shipped to your house and stored in some fulfillment center. So a lot of it, we didn't talk about fulfillment centers, but it's interesting to me personally because my parents live in Ohio where I grew up, and they're right outside Columbus, and there's these huge warehouses popping up everywhere all around them, like massive ones. And it sort of goes to what we were talking about with inventory and choice, where it's people are used to choices now. So in one regard, they may go to a store and try something on, but they may not have the color you want. They may not have the size because it's a big inventory problem. So these huge warehouses that they have in the suburbs of Ohio and other places like open up the possibility to create more of these shopping experiences and increasing choice.
Is that why everybody's so excited about the advent of digital goods, because you don't have to buy warehouses? Like, this is all just occurring to me now that it's like, if I can buy a virtual t-shirt for my avatar, you don't have to have that in a giant warehouse somewhere. So like, it makes sense all of a sudden that all these retailers are like, don't buy real stuff, buy digital stuff, NFTs.
Well, it's monetizing all these things that, weren't previously monetizable. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah. Jeremy, what about you? I know this is a space you must be.
Yeah, the way
about.
we think about this at Pinterest is the good news is that the computer vision technology, the AR technology, the 3D images of products, the lifestyle images, all work the same in sort of like whether you're searching for an image on your phone, whether you're using an AR or whether you're using it in a metaverse. And so all that technology will come to play when the consumers sort of move to that environment to shop. So that's really what we're watching. We're watching carefully, and the good news, I think all the tech will just make that a better and better experience.
Fair enough. Faisal, is this stuff on your radar right now, or are people asking you to start building this stuff out for them?
It's definitely on the radar somewhere, but Facebook or Meta has put in a lot of investment into this theory that the metaverse is the future for them. But having looked at what happened with Libra and other things, I'm not completely sold that everybody is going to move over immediately. So this is a long journey, similar to where the social journey has been, where it's been a long time to get there. So something that we look at, but is it going to immediately impact anything in the world of commerce in a substantial way in the short term? I don't see that happening, but I could be wrong.
So you're saying the next time we do this, we're not all going to be wearing VR headsets and like sick digital avatars?
I can't speak for other people, but I won't be.
Fair enough. Okay, an actual last thing, because I want to not forget to talk about this before we leave, and then I promise I will leave you all alone. Creators and social stuff feels like a big part of this, and obviously, as we talk about, where China is way ahead, like social shopping is this huge phenomenon where people are increasingly, it seems like, doing some of that, like browsing, finding stuff, kind of impulse buying through their favorite creators and live streamers and stuff like that. Is that a trend you all are interested in? Is that coming to the US and elsewhere? Like, how much are you seeing that kind of grow as a part of your businesses? I know Pinterest is investing heavily in this.
It's a huge part of our business. Creators provide two main things, and kind of what I was talking about is in lifestyles. If you're searching for something and you need expertise, I mean, you go to Pinterest and search for bathroom remodel ideas. It's, you can hunt there for a while and experience it, but you also can find a creator that is part of your style, and they can talk to you about how to decorate your bathroom or your home for Christmas or whatever. And we're seeing an incredible amount of that. And it's a great combination of not only creators and the creator ecosystem, but also shopping, saying, hey, here are the products I like. It's sort of like unboxing, with your favorite creators. So that ecosystem is here to stay. And it's not only good for consumers, but it also, it helps with just discovery across the board.
Allison, this strikes me as a huge opportunity because, as we've been talking about, those systems are sort of in a state where they exist lots of places, and you can sort of do some stuff with a lot of different kind of social and creator spaces, but the actual experience of using them almost universally sucks, and is like, you can see a world in which it's totally seamless and simple and quick and easy, and that is not the world we live in right now. Can we get there?
Hopefully. Yeah, we're investing heavily in this space as well. I think the first version is what I referred to earlier, Headless Checkout, where you might read a review article where they're sort of sponsored reviews, or they get affiliate revenue, and purchasing directly from that page. So how can you get better attribution, which helps all sorts of both brands and creators better think through their business models? Because right now the model is very much, you click on an affiliate link and they have to be able to track you all the way through the purchase flow. So the better we can combine the checkout process with the actual creator, and people are sort of doing it in real time without leaving the space that they're in and going to some really large website, I think the better for creators, businesses, and consumers.
Fair enough. Faisal, any last thoughts on creator stuff?
Yeah, I agree with both Allison and Jeremy, especially on Pinterest. It's actually a phenomenal experience to find that maker who can help you through those ideas that are very similar to what you're looking for. So yeah, definitely an area that we see our customers also look for, whether it's through a live streaming, sort of trying to figure out how to sell their services or products, or finding other destinations like Pinterest, et cetera. So definitely a future for that.
Okay. And that space, it strikes me, is going to get very, very, very competitive very, very quickly, because the audiences are so big, and they're already in a position where a lot of folks are doing the kind of, product review and selling stuff that it's like, it would be so natural to just put a shop button there that makes it easy. So I would think being the sort of infrastructure that provides that is going to be like, there's going to be a pretty big competition to be that over time, including some big players. Is that further along maybe than I think, or are we all still kind of gearing up for that race?
You would think Apple Pay would have been early to that and enable that ubiquitous way across the board, but has not happened yet. But to Allison's point, like, that native experience is what people need. We're just not there yet.
And to your point, it's about discovering the creators you like. I mean, the same kind of problems you're doing when you're searching for products. Like, how do you find, out of these thousands of creators, how do you find the one that you like? So using our same kind of discovery technology is allowing you to find new creators and people that you like, because again, it's hundreds of different options there. And so your taste is your taste, and you want to get introduced to the right people. So yeah, it's been a fun experience launching this over the last year, and it's going really great.
I like it. All right. Well, I have kept you all long enough. I really appreciate you taking the time. I had an enormous amount of fun. So thank you all for being here. Thanks to everyone who is watching. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the top, but this was really great. I really appreciate all of you doing this, and we will see you on the next one as avatars.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.